Welcome back to another edition of Inside Career Technical Education, and I am one of the hosts of this program, Ann Baldwin, joined again by President and CEO of YTI Career Institute and Porterchester Institute, Jim Bologa. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot. And there's a lot going on.
There is.
There really is. But, the good news is at both of these institutions, you really have had to pivot since last March, Jim, when it comes to COVID-19. And there's still a way to do this. There's a way to attend these technical programs safely, and you've really done that at both YTI and PCI. So let's talk a little bit about that. If there are people out there, maybe they've been downsized, maybe they want to start a new career, because we've heard so much lately in the news about essential workers, of which you train these folks. So let's talk about how you've had to pivot as the head of these organizations during COVID.
Yeah. So, I think from an education perspective, we've basically moved to a completely residential or on-ground model, education delivery model, to one where lectures online and the labs are on ground. And we're doing that obviously to maintain, the ability to have folks not be on campus every day, if you will. And so we're trying to minimize the frequency which they're getting exposed. Obviously, we're following all the infection control protocols as well when they're on campus. But that's the big thing that we've done, and we've pivoted back in the week of March 16th. We pivoted to taking the school online from a lecture perspective, and then in June. We then were allowed to bring students back on campus for their on-ground, tangible, technical training in our industry modeled labs, and so that's what we've been up to, and again, obviously, throughout all this, we have had students who are interested in coming to school because they've either just graduated from high school, or they've been downsized, or they've decided that what they're doing they don't like to do anymore. Mm-hmm. So for a whole host of reasons, and so what we've done is we've also transitioned all of our student support services. People who work in our admissions area, or work in our educational funding area, or work in our career services area, or our student services area. All those folks are now working remotely, and what we've had to do is really, beef up, our ability to interact with people, on the internet, as well as beef up our website. So
right.
We've been pretty busy.
You've done that. So really what we're talking about here is if you're looking for information or you want to start the application process, as Jim just alluded to, there are still real people that are going to help you through this every step of the way. So the most important part about this conversation really is to start, and that's at the websites, which is porterchester.edu and yti.edu. And that really is where you will get guidance through the very easy step-by-step process. Someone will reach out to you shortly after you complete that process. And it's from start to finish, Jim. It's from getting people enrolled and into the classes. And you mentioned that you've had to pivot a lot to online learning, but a lot of these career paths that we're talking about, there's a hands-on component that can't be taught online, whether it's automotive, whether it's practical nursing, veterinary technology, you name it. There's just so many things that have to be taught hands-on in your industry modeled labs, which is also still happening, but you've kind of spaced it out. I know I was up at Rocky Hill the other day, and your cosmetology students, they're working on, not dummies, but those heads that you put on a pole, and they're still getting the practical hands-on. They're spaced out. Everyone's wearing their protective gear, their masks. So it really still is a safe environment, and there's such a need in all these industries, especially let's go back to the practical nursing during COVID and look at the demand in the healthcare system. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, one of the other things that we've had to do, as well in terms of our curriculum is that we have pivoted, and we are moving to also supplement the curriculum with simulation and simulation software, so that students are able to experience that. So if we do have further shutdowns or further reductions in terms of the people who can be in a group, if you will, we'll still have the availability of some simulation software to help them. They'll still end up in the hands-on industry modeled labs to do their technical training and their technical education skill development. But, we are trying to supplement that so that they do have the ability to use some simulation.
Well, and speaking of simulation, when I was in Rocky Hill a couple of weeks ago, they were putting together Simulation Ann. Named after me? No, I don't think so, because she's got an E on her name and I don't. But really, truly amazing technology. I mean, this thing was like a human being, laying there, and, it breathes, its eyes blink, it's anatomically correct, trust me. And, all these things that now you're going to have these available at so many of your campuses for your nursing students. It really is just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we just bought 10 high fidelity mannequins, and they're basically named Ann with an E, and they're anatomically correct. So there's interchangeable parts, which is pretty interesting. But the reality of the situation is what I think is great about it is that direct patient care and clinical experience is important, but it's interesting because you don't always you're not always able to encounter every possible situation, and so using simulation allows you an enhanced educational experience, in my opinion, because you can then model out things that you may not see in the real world or in practice because they're infrequent. So for us, I think it's a great step forward where we're now really helping to develop the technical skills of our students by helping them really get exposed to things that they may not be able to see in a clinical environment just because of the fact that they're infrequent in occurrence.
Right. Now let's talk about affordability. We've talked about this on this podcast before. Attending a 4-year school, college, whatever you want to call it, and now all of these students, and I feel so badly for them. So many of them are paying to go to a 4-year university, and they're sitting in front of their laptops at home. But affordability. What if that's a concern for somebody who says, I'd like to do this, but can I afford it?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and we have a dedicated team of educational funding specialists that are they're no longer on our campuses physically, although they do go back from time to time to meet with students, but they are available remotely. And I would encourage everybody to if you're interested, apply online and get yourself into the process, and then because it is a process, and we'll take you through that process, and you'll be able to meet with a real person who will help walk you through your sort of educational funding plan, if you will, and again, I think most students who go through that, have a really good idea of what it's going to take to go through our programs. I mean, our programs are, I think when I look at our programs, they're generally, less than the cost of, 1 year at a traditional 4-year, university. So, again, we've tried to, be thoughtful about, where we've positioned ourselves in the marketplace. And, and I think that, when you look at the time that, our students take and the dollars, I would say that, we're very competitive,
right,
in the higher ed world.
Right, and most of these programs can be completed in 12 months. With some of the programs, you've got the flexibility of day and evening classes.
Right.
So start the process. Maybe you're former military, you might have some GI Bill or something that may apply. So it's worth taking a look at. And we should also mention that you do need, to apply for any of these programs, you do need a high school diploma or equivalent. So if you didn't graduate from high school, now's the time to start working on your GED, because that's also acceptable,
right,
so that you can go through this process. Again, the website is porterchester.edu or yti.edu. So when is the next start? Because people need to get going. The holidays are here, but this is a great opportunity to say, let's give it a shot.
Yeah. So the next start for us is at PCI. It's January 18th, and in at YTI, it's the following week. So again, folks have until probably mid to late January. I'd encourage everybody to, if you're interested in getting going, to really, get moving along, because it is a bit of a process, in terms of getting through our enrollment process, in terms of collecting the documentation and making sure you can get through your educational funding plan and all those things. And so, the sooner you can start, I think the more comfortable you'll be leading up to the beginning of school. And again, I mean, we're, as a student, there are things that we are now requiring our students to do, because, we are issuing laptops, and students need to pick those up before school starts, and they need to get themselves situated. We do have support services to get them situated, so when they start the first day of class, they're ready. They're ready to go.
Right. Yeah. And also the career services component, which is where, folks in career services at both YTI and PCI follow you through the process with the goal of gainful employment once you graduate. That's also part of it. It's not like you go through this program and at the end somebody's helping you look for a job. No, this is from beginning to end. That's always the end goal. And I've talked to so many students in the program. Some of them already even have jobs, right. Or getting additional training so that they can move up in that career path. So now is the time. The timing is perfect for this kind of thing, when so many things have slowed down, and who knows what's going to happen in the future. If you're an essential worker in the skilled trades, you can pretty much bet that your future is going to be secure. So I think that's a good opportunity for anybody. Again, porterchester.edu and yti.edu. Jim Bologa, it's always great to see you. And thanks for joining us on this podcast. And of course, we want to thank our listeners for tuning in to this edition of Inside Career Technical Education.